Hey everyone, and welcome to the How We Hustle podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Tanya, and we invite you to join us in our unfiltered conversation about the real life hustle of being an entrepreneur. Okay, Mike, so you are in Mexico. Tell everyone where you are, why you're there.
Well, I am in Playa del Carmen, but more importantly, why am I here? Well, I am here because 2020, New Year's, it was like a big moment, and I just felt that I needed to really start the new year off, the new decade off, with some serious momentum. So it's not so much where I am, it's more that I just wanted to separate myself from my usual routine, separate myself from the usual distractions of being at home. You know, when we're at home, we all have these routines, we have distractions, we have family, we have friends, etc. And you know, it can be hard. There's always different things pulling at our attention. And I was just feeling really stuck at home. I was feeling in this sort of creative rut. I was feeling like, you know, I couldn't get inspired. I wanted to record videos, but it's like freezing cold at home. So I just said, you know what, I am going to separate myself from everything and go. So I actually booked my flight about 12 hours before I left, which is my usual style. Yeah, it came down to Playa del Carmen. And the reason I chose here is because I've been hearing a lot about this town in particular being like a digital nomad hub. And yeah, it's first time. I love it. I love it here. It's like the perfect setting for people that want to, take advantage of the beach, but also be in a place that's not totally touristy and, you know, can get work done. So spending my days co-working and that's about it.
Yeah. And I mean, you were saying too that it wasn't even that expensive, right? It was like $500 for your flight, $500 to $1,000 for a place for the whole month, even through Airbnb.
Yeah, it's like really crazy. I don't want to say cheap because cheap's like, first of all, it's relative. That's not really the right term, but the dollar goes a long way here. You can get, I'd say everything is about, you can get about 1.5 to 3 times the value for your money on just about everything here. So it's like great because, you know, when you work online, right, you can move around, and especially, you know, when you go somewhere for a 5 or 7 day vacation, the economics of it become harder. But when you are able to go away for a month, then you can sort of amortize the costs into that month, and it really doesn't cost anything. You know what I mean? Because, you know, spend a little bit of money on a flight, spend a little bit of money on an apartment, that gets kind of canceled out by the fact that you're spending less money every day. The real benefit I see is you know, switching up your surroundings. I think that switching up your environment can be such like a kick in the, you know, whatever to get moving and just inspire creative juices that, you know that you have in you, but maybe aren't flowing at any given moment. In my experience, it can be really easy, or it just happens where you get stagnant. You know, you've been in the same place, you've been doing the same thing. Maybe you're working out of the same place every day, office, coffee shop, co-working place, whatever, and you're just sort of stuck. And when you switch it up, when you go somewhere else, when you meet new people, you're in a different environment, it can really get those juices going. And that's, you know, what's going on for me right now. I have been so productive. Just being in a new place. I'm recording videos, I'm getting work done. I'm like going through my task list. Like I was telling you before, one of the reasons I came here is not necessarily because I'm running my business like usual, but I had a bunch of, I had this to-do list of things that I needed to get done. You know, like I needed to build out more pieces of my funnel, needed to record some content, and just like the list was growing. And especially after the holidays, I kind of just turned it off for 2 weeks and didn't really get anything done. So I come here, I go through set up at the co-working place. I go through my to-do list. Maybe I'll do one thing on my to-do list and then go for a walk, go to the beach, go, you know, get a smoothie or whatever, come back, and I'm able to really get back into my task list. So it's really been an unbelievable. I've only been here for a week so far. I'm staying here for another 2.5 weeks, for about 3.5 weeks total. And yeah, I've gotten so much done. So definitely recommend that. But what I do want to talk about, and what you and I were talking about before we pushed the record button, was that it can be hard. It can be hard to go away because you're going to be met with a lot of resistance from the people in your life. This idea of just going somewhere, especially when you're going alone, people don't get it. They're like, I don't understand. So I had this problem with my girlfriend. And I don't want to say it's a problem because she was cool about it. But when you have a partner who's not a digital nomad and you say to them, I want to go away by myself for several weeks, it's a hard sell. It can be a hard sell. It doesn't have to be a hard sell, but it can be a hard sell. And that person, for example, my girlfriend, like, it's also a hard sell on, her family and whatnot. And I'm just using this as an example, but I'm getting all sorts of resistance from, my family, from her to this idea, because it's like a lot of people don't have the mindset of really working remotely, of having an online business, of, what that means and why we're doing it. Like, obviously, the reason that you and I do what we do is because we value freedom more so than the money, right? I was saying to you before, like, there's really no amount of money that you could pay me where I would think it would be a good deal for me to, get a job at an office tower in downtown Toronto and just make that my life. You could pay me $1 million and I'd probably take it, but I wouldn't do it for very long. I would beg some money and leave, because that's just not like why we do what we do. That's not our why, you know what I mean? So one of the biggest challenges I think of moving is really being able to deal with and handle and overcome the objections that you are going to get from the people that are important to you in your life. That's really, what I'm up to right now.
Yeah. And it was interesting to me because I would have thought like people would have said, wow, that's so amazing. Because I was sharing with Mike, I guess 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, how I have a client who did the same thing. Her and her husband picked up and went to Mexico for a month and rented a place on Airbnb. And I was like, wow, that's so amazing. I mean, if I didn't have a cat, I would love to do that. Even with my cat, I feel like there are things that I could do to pick up and go somewhere for a month. Like, my initial reaction to that was, that's so amazing. Whereas you were sharing with me that the people in your life didn't have that same reaction.
Yeah. I mean, and part of that is because I didn't necessarily set the expectation with various people up front. I just think, generally speaking, most people just can't really get their head around this whole idea of online business. And I actually was planning on recording a little content piece about this idea of internet money, where you are making your money on the internet. And it might sound like, I get it. I understand what internet money is, but when you really think about it, it's such a powerful concept that you can completely disconnect yourself. Not only disconnect your time, where you're not being paid a salary, because you're in the office from 9 to 5, you're making yourself location independent. And that really is the value of internet money. Like, when I say internet money, it's more of a mindset where if you're making internet money, you can go wherever you want, do, travel. It's not to say you're not working. Like, I'm in Mexico right now, and I still have not yet gone into the ocean completely, because I don't really have time for that right now. I'm like busy working. It's a hard thing for people who haven't gone down this entrepreneurial journey that you and I are on. And I think a lot of our listeners are, have gone on. It's a mindset shift, understanding that we live in a world now. It's possible for every single person to do it. And I think that is where the sticking point lies with a lot of people. I could say, I'm going to Mexico for 4 weeks to work. And like, well, wouldn't that be nice? If only I could just do that. And really what I want everyone to understand is that literally everyone can do it. It's just, you have to get your mind around it and really visualize what is the life or the outcome you want. A lot of people just won't admit to themselves that they want that. And I think it's because deep down, they don't think that they could ever really figure that out. I wish I could make money online. I wish, I could start an online business. And let's both be honest, it's not easy. I think the hardest part is just getting your mind around it, like conceptualizing the idea of working online. There's a lot of people out there that just don't, and they're the people that are important to us. They're our family, our friends, our partners. It's a struggle to get people on board and to really understand. Like, people, I tell them I'm going to Mexico for like a month, and they're like, have fun. I'm like, I'm not really going to have fun necessarily. Like, yeah, of course I'm going to have fun, but that's not really why I'm going. People have this idea where I'm going down to party. No, that's that's not what it is.
I would be concerned for myself that I don't know if I would be as focused if I was exploring a new place. That would definitely be like a concern of mine. Before you even talk about that, like I just want to put it out there that Mike used to talk about this to me when I was working in a 9-to-5 job, guys. And I used to say that to him all the time. Wow, I wish that could be my life. And I probably said that to you for 5 years, which is how we started this podcast originally, was because for 5 years, I would just look at Mike's life and be like, wow, must be nice. Like, I wish I could live that life. And then whenever he would say, well, anyone can do it, I would say to him, but how? Like, I don't have any ideas. I don't know what I would do. I don't see the path for myself because I wasn't in the creative flow of all of the things.
And it's funny. Can I just stop you there? It's funny what you're saying. You're saying, oh, I don't have any ideas. I can't. And the way that you're answering that is you're answering that with, I can't. It's not possible. And that's what I mean by mindset shift. Instead of saying, I don't have any ideas, be like, well, maybe I'm going to start trying to think about that. Or maybe that's something I want to like start to explore. Because the minute you say I can't, it shuts the door. You're not going to come up with any solutions when the first thing you say is I can't. So I think for you, the process of you getting from your corporate job to where you are now, it started with maybe I can, maybe this will work. Once you open that door, then it's like you start seeing all of these opportunities that are just right in front of you that you were just totally closed off from before. I just wanted to kind of point that out.
You're kind of telling me how I did it, but I don't necessarily agree with that's how it happened. I think that I started reading a lot and seeing so many other people doing it. And it was
okay. So let me rephrase that. Like, my girlfriend, I keep saying to her, like you should try and think about like, taking what you do, and her answer is I can't. That's not for me. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a sales. I'm not an entrepreneur. Basically, she's saying it's not in my DNA.
That's what I used to think as well.
And it's so frustrating because it's just like, no, it's not in your DNA because you're saying it's not in your DNA. If you would just be like, maybe, but that's kind of cool.
Okay, but you can't get frustrated with that because I have to admit that's exactly what I always say. Even to this day, I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never thought that was in the cards for me or possible for me, or that I was the type of person who would do that. I mean, it might be frustrating for you to hear because you are on the other side of it, but for people that have never even considered it, it just was never something they like dreamed about or thought about. I think the difference is that you start to be like, how can I make this possible for me, when you see that there's a reason why you want to do it. Like, oh, I would love to live that kind of life, which is what it was for me too. It was like, I wanted that freedom. I didn't like going to a job every day when you realize how much free time you don't have and how much it holds you back from enjoying parts of life that like you desire to enjoy, like the things I wanted to do, the places I wanted to travel.
That's what I said when I was like, the way to do it is to first visualize the outcome, which is what you were saying there. It's like, it wasn't until you started to sort of visualize the outcome, which is like, I don't have to get up in the morning and go to my stupid office. As soon as you started to sort of get your head around the outcome, then you worked on how you're going to get there, right? It wasn't like, I don't know how I'm going to get there, so I'm not even going to bother to think about the outcome. It was the other way around. And that, I would say, is how it works.
Yeah. I mean, I still think it takes some time to...
Oh yeah, it definitely takes time.
Especially when you've never seen yourself in a particular job or way, or all honesty, like I liked my job at the time. I thought I really loved what I was doing. And I know that your girlfriend really loves what she's doing. So it's really hard to kind of conceptualize that when it's not something you've ever thought about before. So I think it takes time to really wrap your head around how is this going to work. And again, I think that seeing other people doing it is part of the journey. It's part of seeing how it's going to come to be, is being introduced to people that are doing it. Like I started to meet people that were living that life. Like I knew you at first, but you were the only person that I knew. And then when I started to read some of those books and go on trips and meet people who were doing that, I started to surround myself and read and look for and follow people who were already living that life and kind of learn from them and get that creative inspiration of some sort of like, oh, this is how this person is doing it. And this is how that person is doing it. And then it starts to come together where you're like, okay, I see how they transitioned to make this freedom business and how they're able to travel or how they're able to have so much freedom. And then you start thinking about implementing those concepts into your life as well.
And you know what I actually has been interesting insight for me is that coming down here, I spend my days at this co-working place. There's, I've met lots of people, but it's like you kind of, I think it can be scary because you think that you're going to go down and everyone who's going to be, at the co-working place, et cetera, is going to be really, really successful, like making tons of money. But you come here and then everyone's just like figuring it out like me, you know what I mean? Everyone's at different stages, but that's what you come here for. It's not because you're already like where you want to be. It's because you're getting there. My point is like, don't wait until you think you've gotten there before you do stuff like that, because you don't have to wait. Even if you're just starting, even if you're at zero and putting it together, like it's okay, because there's people at every stages of business that are living this lifestyle, and they're living this lifestyle in a way that works for them.
And even the last episode that I did with Taylor, she moved to Bali with only $600. And she was like, I don't know, 23 or something. She was super young. And she just moved to Bali. I told her that was extremely courageous of her. I don't know if I could have done that, but people are doing it. And she made it work. And she said it was quite stressful at the beginning, but it was being in that environment and surrounded by other people who were living that life that also gave her the connections, the relationships, the motivation to do more. So, I mean, I still think that my concern would be that I would get distracted by all the fun things to do.
I have never, like in the last year, had been so focused on my work than I have been in the last week. So it comes down to the mindset that you take with you. If you are on the mindset that you are going to go on vacation, then yeah, that's one thing. But I actually, I've traveled solo a lot in my life, and I find it very boring in a way, because having something to do, which is go to work, go to co-working and get stuff done, that brings so much purpose to travel. Because instead of waking up in the morning and being like, okay, like what am I going to do today? Like what tour am I going to go on? Or should I go drink, or like, should I go on a pub crawl, or should I just go to the beach? And like, for me, it's unsatisfying when I go somewhere and I'm like, all right, I'm in a new place. I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to work, and it's so easy to focus here because there's literally nothing else to distract me except my work. Yeah, I'm in a new place, and there's a beach here, this and that. And that, I suppose that takes a certain level of self-discipline. But I think, to be honest, that when you're an entrepreneur, if you're running a business or you're growing a business or launching a business, like the reason you're doing it is because you're passionate about it. And everyone I'm surrounded with, they are all growing businesses that they are so passionate about. I think that everyone, I speak for myself, but I kind of speak for the other people here as best I can. I think working is what drives us. Like, it's fun to work, like I don't look at the clock. I'm actually surprised how quickly the days expire here, because I'm just so immersed in what fuels me. Yeah, I'm just finding it so easy to focus because I brought that mindset down with me. I came here to get it done.
So how did you find that co-working space too? Because I've only traveled once by myself. I'm not as afraid to do it anymore as I was the first time, because I realized that when you're alone, tons of people actually talk to you.
You surround yourself, and you put yourself in, at a co-working place, for example, like you are going to a foreign place, but you're also kind of setting yourself up in a place where people like you congregate. So I have gone to places before where I didn't co-work, and I was really lonely. I was isolated. It was actually hard to meet people. But when you go to a co-working place, for example, it's actually really easy to meet really like-minded people. It's really easy to connect with those people because you're all doing the same thing. Whereas if you go traveling and you're on a tour, for example, and you meet someone else, it's easier to have small talk, but it's less easy to connect with people because they're not doing what you're doing, right? I found it to be anything but lonely or isolating. How did I find it? I just did a Google search.
So wherever you're planning on going for a month or more, just look up a co-working space. And
I'll tell you where I'm at. I'm at this place called Selena, which they have co-working places all across Central and South America. And this particular one here, it's like a hotel / hostel as part of it. So, which is really cool because they have like a pool and they have a bar and they have like a lounge area. But then off to the side, they also have this co-working space, which is actually really perfect because you have all the co-working people who are whatever, but then you can just sort of go to the other side of the property and there's like a really cool pool. So if you just want to go lay by the pool and have a Wi-Fi phone call or something, you can do that as well. So it's called Selena. That being said, there's great ones everywhere. So don't just rely on this one.
Okay, well, thank you, Mike. That's amazing. And I definitely hope that this has inspired other people that if you are living the laptop lifestyle, that you can pick up and leave, as Mike usually sends me a message at like 1 in the morning. Hey, by the way, in the morning, I'm leaving to go somewhere for a month.
And I think, I think that the reason I do that is because, and I think this is something that I took from the 4-hour work week, like many, many years ago when I first read it, but it was like, don't allow this idea of travel to like become something it's not, like normalize it. It's normal to like book a flight and get on a plane 4 hours later. Like it's either normal or it's not. It's up to you if you make it normal. And if it doesn't feel normal, if it feels scary, which it does. I always have this like weird hangover period, like after I book a flight and then in between that period and the time I actually get there, there's this like anxiety to be like, oh, I'm going somewhere new. I would just really challenge everyone to like step out of your comfort zone a lot. It might be scary to, the thought of going somewhere new, but I'm actually just in Mexico. I'm actually just like 45 minutes from Cancun. So it's actually like so easy to get to. And so easy to get home. Like if something were, if I needed to get home, it's like there's like a bajillion flights every single day. I could get home. I could probably be home right now in like 7 hours if I needed to be. Okay. But I would just say it can feel really uncomfortable to do something like that, but take that leap, try something new. For those of you who are listening, who it's really scary to, acknowledge that it's scary. You can acknowledge that feeling. And then try and, shift what you're feeling and take that plunge. If it's just like, I'm going to go for a week. You don't have to go for 3 weeks. You can make your first sort of remote working trip for a week. Just try it out and, ease into it. I would just recommend doing something every once in a while that really feels uncomfortable, but that if, you try it and it works out well, it can really open up a new door to how you see life really, can really lead to some special outcomes and experiences and results. I would just say, give it a try, not a whole lot of downside, especially if you stay close. In my case, Mexico is pretty close to Canada in terms of proximity and flights and whatnot. You will all agree that when you switch up your surroundings, when you put yourself in a different context, it really opens the door to a whole new level of awareness, productivity, creativity, and personal growth. So definitely try it out.
Okay, thanks. And that's a wrap on another episode of How We Hustles. If you loved this episode, let us know by taking a screenshot and sharing it on your Instagram stories. Tag me at Wholehearted Business Coach.
And you can find me at LinkedIn Michael.